Hey, I'm seeing something with your phone number, 406. Are you up in Montana?
I am. Bozeman.
I'm from Billings.
Oh, nice.
Wow,
Good.
how long have you lived in Bozeman?
25 years?
Unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah.
I used to go to Bozeman to visit my grandmother all the time as a child back in the 60s and 70s, and it's like I've watched that city grow.
I bet you have from the 60s. I mean, we've seen it grow just in 25 years, but my God, the 60s, how many paved roads were there?
Right. And how wide were they? Coming up oh
Yeah.
my God, to come across that pass, that pass used to scare me so bad.
It was treacherous back then.
Yeah. So now, have you seen the Bozeman Tunnel for the train?
No.
It's over there, right there on I-90. My grandfather helped create that tunnel way back, and so it's like. But you used to be able to see it from the highway, but with the 4 lanes now, you really can't see it back there.
Huh. I'm gonna have to go look.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
So, how did you get involved with all the Glimmering stars? I mean, because this is a book that really needs to be observed as well as experienced.
Yeah. I got involved with it when a guy who was a former CIA station chief in Kampala, Uganda, and his friend Eric, who is at the time was a U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 Squadron commander. And they heard the story in Uganda. Mick, the spy, was part of the hunt for Joseph Kony, who was a African warlord who preyed on children. He kidnapped them and tried to turn them into soldiers. Mick and Eric, when they heard the story of Anthony and Florence, these two 14-year-olds who get kidnapped by Kony, along with 35,000 other children, they believed that if it was properly told, that the story could end child soldiering forever.
Yeah. I totally get that. Because I mean, to me, that's just another form of human trafficking. I mean, when they kidnap them and turn them into soldiers, they're trafficking those kids.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the women. The young girls were often forced to marry older officers in Kony's army, some as old as 70. It was definitely a form of human trafficking, except they shoved them into combat as well.
Wow. No matter how dark the subject is, you keep our focus on humanity. That takes a lot from the author.
You know, I disagree. When I went over to Uganda to interview Florence and Anthony, the first thing you get is their humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I had spent, or, you know, a lot of people have been kidnapped and forced into combat for 10 years, they could easily be cast as a victim the rest of their lives. And they don't see it that way. They think post-Kony that every day they have is a miracle. And it's amazing to see that in a person. They literally glow when they operate at this level.
Wow. Is this looked upon as being a war crime?
Yes, it is a war crime. Members of the Lord's Resistance Army, which was Kony's army, have been prosecuted in The Hague, and Anthony was one of the main witnesses against them. For the past 5 or 6 years, the belief was that Kony was dead. And now Rolling Stone came out with an article just last week, after we had gone to print with the book, that he's alive. And so the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for his arrest, and the hunt is on for him again.
That tells me that you're going to be a part of this for many years to go.
Well, we believe that child soldiering is a really, really difficult issue to not only face, but to understand. But the UN General Secretary believes that this is such a global issue that he created a special envoy who does nothing but work on issues of children and armed combat. And they issue a report every year telling you exactly where children are being dragged and trafficked into war. And we, through the book, part of the proceeds go to end that, as well as a nonprofit that I'm part of, which is www.endschildsoldiering.com. And you can read more about the issue there. and also contribute to ending it.
You know, in bringing this book to me to read, I mean, the thing that really scares me the most is that what's going on in the world that we don't see in Ukraine as well as Gaza. What are they doing with those children? And because they're always talking about, well, we need more weapons. Well, someone has to operate those weapons.
No, that's correct. And right now, there are child soldiers in Ukraine, and there are child soldiers in Gaza. The thing is that they've found through studying this since the 90s that if you don't get in and first rescue these kids, but second, put them through a very specific form of rehabilitation, if they don't go through that and rejoin society, they're likely to become hardened terrorists later in life.
Yep. So in a situation like this, do you ever look at our own soil here in the United States? What would that one thing have to happen for this to start happening in this country? Or are we too strong for something like that?
I think we're too strong. We got really good laws that govern when you can join the military. And again, no one's being forced into the military in the United States. Conscription's been gone for decades. But by the same token, the military understands that there's a certain age at which certain humans can pick up weapons and be soldiers. But in our mind, anybody 16 and under should not have a war weapon in their hand.
And yet, you read those stories of World War II that you know they were teenagers that went to war to fight for this country, and it's like, how did you even get in?
Well, I mean, my father-in-law, as a matter of fact, went in at 17.
Yep.
Which was the earliest you could go in, and he was in the Navy. He fought in Midway. And God bless him, he's about to turn 100.
Wow. Yeah. Are you recording anything from him? Because I didn't get that opportunity with my father. So, I mean, are you getting anything down to pass forward?
No, my wife did all that, and we interviewed him at length. And he was an incredible baseball player. He was drafted by the Giants and eventually by the Cardinals before he went to war. He was that good. He was heading to the majors as a shortstop. So the war cut his career off. He ended up being the captain of baseball at Cornell and became an aeronautical engineer.
Wow. What an amazing generation. What an amazing generation. So when you write a book like All the Glimmering Stars, what have you learned? Because what happens is you were the student first. Now we are the reader.
Yeah. Well, I learned from this book and from Anthony and Florence that there is nothing that cannot be overcome if you do it from a place of love.
I love it.
And they hit it home again and again and again that the fact that they fell in love saved them.
Wow.
They wouldn't have made it if they hadn't fallen in love.
Wow.
And it gave them the power to survive, to escape, and then to turn the tables on Coney and become part of the international hunt for him.
While you were putting the book together, did you take walks up there in the beautiful mountains of Montana?
I did. I also took a lot of walks in Uganda.
Really?
We went to a lot of the places that are scenes in the book. We didn't go into South Sudan because at the time there was civil unrest going on, and even though I was going to be with a SEAL team leader and a former spy, my wife doesn't like me going into conflict zones, so I don't.
Do you find yourself being a modern-day journalist, or are you a historian, or are you an activist?
I am neither, none of them.
Okay.
I'm a historical novelist who goes and finds untold stories and then tells the stories using fictional techniques. Do I change some of the things? Sure.
Yeah.
For example, when kids tried to escape the LRA, escape Coney, there were these teams of trackers that would go out after them to find them. It would have been very cumbersome to identify to readers all these teams. So I condensed it to one team with a lead tracker that you meet very, very early in the book. And he represents this you cannot escape ethic that is going on inside the LRA all the time. So that's where those kinds of things in, but I've changed it, and so it becomes fiction. But somebody compared to what I do to how Truman Capote wrote In Cold Blood. he novelized it. He brought it to life on the page, and that's what I try to do.
Gosh, you do such a fine job too. So
Thank you.
about Bozeman is that the last time I was there, the park was probably the first thing that you saw. There was like a Dairy Queen or something. Is that park still over there? Right there on I-90?
It is not there.
Oh.
There's Lindley Park, which is right off of Main Street as you're coming into town.
Yeah.
And that's quite beautiful. It's where they have a number of festivals every year.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's still there. Beautiful place.
Yeah, we would go by that park. Then my grandmother's house was over on Mendenhall, which is over I think it wasn't a sugar beet factory. I think it was just a regular flour factory or something. And I'm sure it's probably all long gone.
It's gone. Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. Yeah. It's been turned into offises and doctors' places and stuff.
Goodness.
That factory.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the website, once again, is www.endchildsoldiering.com?
That's right.
I love it.
And my website is www.marksullivanbooks.com.
Mark, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. I love your story, and I love the way that you invite people to learn new things.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Okay, you as well.